Hello. Thank you so much for joining us here at Sharing Hope. My name is Sharita. I work on the marketing team for Christian Care Ministry and Medi-Share, and we're so glad that you're with us. I want to tell you right off the bat, you are in for a treat today. We have basically a rock star. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest, and then we'll jump right in. Today we have with us Shannon Litton. She's the president and CEO of 5x5. And I already told you she's a rock star. I'm going to tell you about all the things, and then we'll get started. So Shannon brings experience from both technology and nonprofit management. She builds strategies that lead organizations to new levels. She's worked with over 300 organizations on everything from rebranding to multilingual campaigns on marketing. She's really an industry expert, and she develops solutions that help propel change. She works with people right down the street and all around the world. Like I told you, she's the president and CEO of 5x5. 5x5 is a marketing and digital agency, and it serves organizations and businesses from a variety of industries. And they have a unique double bottom line, which is about revenue and impact. So the team at 5x5, they deliver messages with clarity, reach, results, and they've also been featured everywhere from Inc. magazines, 5,000 list of fastest growing privately held companies, and so much more. Before Shannon started 5x5, she co-founded a successful marketing and technology agency. She worked in marketing for a technology leader in the education industry, and she provided marketing consulting to nonprofits who are engaged in multi-million-dollar fundraising campaigns. So she understands all the unique challenges that business leaders face today, and she knows how to help them break through the clutter in a very overcrowded marketplace. She's addressed so many audiences, from professional athletes to healthcare innovation professionals, business leaders. She's spoken at the Kingdom Advisors Conference, Ramsey Solutions, Business Boutique, and more. Today, she serves on the advisory council of the Christian Leadership Alliance, the Association of Business Professionals, and the board at Tribeca Nazarene University. She lives in Franklin, Tennessee, and she lives there with her husband and her 5 children, 2 of whom they've adopted from Ethiopia. So I told you we had a rock star in the house, and my favorite thing is that I know her personally and her team. We work with them and love them. In addition to being so talented, she's humble, hardworking, and super down to earth. So Shannon, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and tell us, how are you doing?
Well, man, what an introduction. It's all downhill from here because I can't live up to that, Sharita. But thank you. And I'm doing okay. I think, like a lot of people, there are great days and days that we're just ready to kick tail and take names. And then there are days where we feel like we got our tail kicked and are able to take it. So, but you know what? We're doing good. And I'm very, very hopeful for even the remainder of 2020 and what it's going to look like.
Oh, Shannon, that's what I love about you. You're always so refreshing. You're honest and positive. I totally agree with you, trying to maintain my hope and, even in the midst of it. I love your realness. How is it going with the family and quarantine vibes?
Well, that's probably what's kicking tail more than anything. I have 5 kids from 1st grade to 11th grade. And so one of the biggest challenges for us, we bought a little farmhouse about 2 years ago out in rural Tennessee. And 2 things we realized when we moved there were that there was no trash pickup. That didn't even occur to us that that's possible there.
I didn't know that.
I know. So we have to load up and go to the dump. And then also that the Wi-Fi is terrible. So we're now trying to homeschool, and mom's working and all of those things off of the same terrible farm Wi-Fi. But we're going to make it.
We're going to make it. Amen to that. It's a party. And that trash thing, girl, I guess that's why people burn their trash. I remember people out in the country who burnt their trash.
So we do a lot of that now. We've actually learned what you can and can't burn. That's a whole different topic for another day, but very important.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. I just love catching up and hearing, what you guys are up to. I know that we work with you guys and I love your team so much. You guys have helped us with so many things and get us such great results. And you're a joy to be around too, because it's one thing if you work with someone and they help you and get you results, but we like you too. And so I just wondered if you would just in your own words kind of tell people, what does 5x5, do for, because you work with so many different, small companies, large companies. What does that look like? How do I know if you guys could help me in my business?
Well, I mean, I think the commonality for us is we serve organizations that are mission driven. Mission driven looks a lot of different ways. There are a ton of nonprofits that we work with, but then we also get to work through sports and healthcare and even just for-profits where there's a mission-driven owner. And we help those organizations in a couple of areas, but it's all around marketing and technology and how we use those things to really drive our mission, to expand what we're able to do. You said it beautifully in the intro. We serve organizations with a double bottom line, and everybody has a revenue bottom line. Mm-hmm. Nonprofits have revenue bottom lines. We've got to keep those lights on. We've got to keep the impact going. But for us, it's important that we also have that impact bottom line. And so when the revenue and the impact are both growing, that's when there's success.
Nice. Awesome. I love that so much. Well, there's so much I want to talk with you about today. The first things that are on the top of my mind, these articles that you just wrote not too long ago for entrepreneur.com, I thought they were so great and so timely. And so I wanted to ask you about those. The first one, you wrote, one CEO's tips for communicating during a crisis. And of course, you're that CEO. I loved so many things in there, but these are some things that stood out to me. And I just wanted to share, and then I'll ask you to unpack. You said our words, even in jest, are powerful. And that was like a punch, because we forget how powerful our words are sometimes. You talked about how communicating the right thing at the right time is the most important thing you can do. And so you talk about how it's really hard to over communicate and how you should communicate even when you don't have a decision, and how it's okay to change your mind, and, striking the right balance. So very powerful, but will you kind of unpack some of those ideas for us? Thank you.
Absolutely. And again, I write as I'm learning these things, right? And so I've been in agency business for 20 years, but we truly have never seen anything like what we've experienced recently. And so like everyone, I'm unpacking these things and learning these things with our team. But I have the unique privilege of seeing how other organizations are doing and kind of being in the middle of that. And so I love to bring these best practice ideas of what's working and not working. And really the very first article I wrote at the beginning of this was about communication, because I think organizations were rising and falling on their ability to communicate, both internally to their team and externally.
Wow.
I said in that article, the worst thing you could have, and this doesn't matter whether there's a crisis or it's the best of times, the worst thing you can have is an information vacuum. If there's an information vacuum, it always gets filled.
Please say that again. I just feel like that's like a gospel word. That's so good.
I mean, it's true. And we think about this is anywhere in our lives. If I don't communicate well with my children and they don't know what's going on, they're going to create a story. They're going to think something. They're going to fill that vacuum. That's very true in a time of crisis. If we're not telling our team, and there were days early in this where I would stand in front of my team and I would say, I don't know what we're going to do next week. Are we closing the office? Are we not? But here's what I'm going to tell you. We're watching it every day. I'd love to know what you think. Are you comfortable? And just filling a vacuum, even with acknowledging you don't know, fills the vacuum and gives the truth, right? But if we don't do that, especially as leaders in organizations, if we are not incredibly conscious and disciplined about sharing everything that we know, there will be an information vacuum.
Oh my goodness, girl. I feel like we could stay in that point. That's church, because it's so easy to forget that. Why do you think that we because I feel like we kind of know that, but then we feel like, well, I'm just not going to say anything until I know all the answers.
Exactly right.
What do you think that's about? Like,
Yeah,
why?
I think we're afraid to be wrong. And I think we're conditioned. And there are a lot of organizations where there really just is this fear of failure that is instilled into us, which makes us very risk adverse. And then we carry that on into leadership, where I want to know everything. And I want to have written this message out 12 times and had, 18 people review it and on up the chain and back down. And there are times when that's appropriate, but there are also times where I need to get as many facts down, and then I need to go for authenticity and just honesty. And it's okay. Actually, people love it when we come and we say, we don't have everything tied up, but we know you need information. So here's all that we know. And so I felt like that was my full-time job the first few weeks with our team, and then also with our clients, just filling that info vacuum with the right, correct information, or even just acknowledging we don't even know, but we're all in this together.
Wow, that is powerful. That is so rich. So that vulnerability and that authenticity. What I also love is that you are working with so many businesses. And so you're seeing this trend across the board. This is not just affecting some pockets. You're seeing it everywhere.
Yeah, and Sharita, we even did early on, it was the first week for us here in Tennessee that we were quarantined. We did we have an in-house market research team. And so we did a study of business leaders at that time, just to kind of do the temperature check of business leaders, and also to say, what do you need? And so we love to do those things too, because then now we're speaking to you, and I think we all have to do that with our team. We're speaking to you about things that you really care about, not things that we think you should care about.
That'll preach also right there. That's so good. That's so good. And then your second article that you just recently wrote for entrepreneur.com, and I loved the title of this one, What If the New Normal is Better? Because I do have this feeling that even though we're going through these trying times, and it has challenges and there are definitely difficult things, I'm hopeful that what's on the other side of this is better. And I loved how you said, what if going back to normal is going backwards, and you talked about innovation, you talked about urgency and responsibility. So will you tell us a little bit about that one as well?
Absolutely. I do think, to be honest, we're going to have some tough times this year. We're in tough times. Right. We don't know what the rest of this year looks like. So I am not a ridiculous optimist. I think I'm a realist optimist, but I also think there are things that are happening that are incredibly exciting to me that I hope we don't lose. And I just named 3 of those in that article. And the first one was speed, was urgency. We're all used to, in organizations, particularly the bigger the organization gets, the longer the organization's been around, the more hands are in the pot, right? Yeah. There's this approval process that is ridiculous. There's this process.
Bureaucracy.
There's all the red tape. And it feels like in many cases that's been stripped back, and we've been able to do things very quickly. I saw an interview with a CEO who said it's a chain of gyms around the country that were shut down. And he said that they had within this very large organization, a team of people that had been working for 3 years on how to offer a digital experience to their gym patrons. And he said when the coronavirus hit, they had it live in 10 days.
Oh my gosh. So the pressure just made it happen. Yeah.
Right. But it also, I see that and I think that's amazing. And then I also think, how many hours and hours and hours did we waste over 3 years, right? Yeah, so that could legitimately be done in 10 days. So I think I love urgency. I know we won't fully keep the urgency, but I do think as leaders, there are things that we can kind of dissect and analyze what made us able to move quicker. And I think we can keep some of those things. And then the second was just innovation. I love the innovation that has happened. We sit on our laurels in organizations too often and worship the past and cling to things that really should not be sacred cows. Yeah. And so again, something like this comes along. We don't have any choice but to innovate. And we find within that innovation, we find some really great places that actually are where we should be going. And then the last one, I feel like there has been a very dramatic return to mission, particularly in the mission-driven organizations that we work with. You know, we can just get busy with all the to-dos every day, and something like this happens, and we have to remind ourselves every day, why am I getting out of bed? Why am I doing this? And why does this matter? And I think we've had that within organizations where we've just had to come back to what really matters. I think it was Mark Cuban recently said, I'll give him credit if not, because I like him, but kindness is the new currency. And I love that. And I think that is so true when it comes to how we deal with our team, when it comes to how we treat customers. There's been just a renewed sense of commitment to our customers, commitment to our audiences, not just seeing them as dollars, but seeing them as people that are struggling, and what's our role to do in that. And you see that everywhere from large, Fortune 100 companies down to small organizations and communities. I love that return to commitment and mission, and I hope we get to keep it.
Girl, I am sitting here trying to scribble notes like while you are talking and like still be engaged. There's so many great knowledge bombs that you are dropping. Kindness is the new currency, man. So many beautiful things you're saying there. I'm sitting here trying to write notes and look down and like, look at you. So good. So good.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are a couple other things that I know are important to you, and I want to ask you to kind of share and unpack. I know something that you say is clarity wins in any crisis. And so you touched on that a little bit earlier, but I just thought maybe remind us, why is clarity so important?
Right. I think we always, particularly in leadership roles, we always overestimate the clarity that is within our teams and organizations. Always.
We overestimate it.
We think it's there. We know we've said it at least 3 times, so surely everyone has heard it.
Okay.
And I will tell you, if you are not sick and tired of hearing yourself say the same thing over and over, your team has not gotten it.
So I need to be sick and tired of saying
Sharita,
it.
you have to wear it out. You have to feel like, okay, this as a mom too, right?
This is true. This is true.
Over and over and over. Oh, and one day a child looks at me and goes, "Did you just say?" And you're thinking, yes, and I said that the last 14 years of your life.
Yes.
Right? But it's the same thing. It's human nature, but it also is on us that once we've said it a couple of times, we feel like we've said it. And so we've got to just repeat over and over. And again, that works internally. It also works externally. That's a branding principle that I am passionate about, is that we can't continually be tweaking our message. I'll tell you, consistency is so much more important than perfection, because we never really get to perfection, and perfection is also subjective. And so if we can
I need a white hanky. I'm like, preach.
You get blessed over there, I know. But it's true, and we feel that in organizations. If we can nail down our message, let's get it really good. Maybe even great. That'd be great. But then let's just be consistent in how we say it, because if it's hard to communicate in our families, it's even harder to communicate in our organizations internally, where we have people perhaps even in the building with us 5 days a week. It's exponentially harder to get our customers to understand, and it's even harder than that to get the public to understand. And so if we're not being consistent and saying the same thing over and over and over and over, there's no way anybody's going to get it.
Oh, I love that, girl. I need my white hanky. And the onus is on us as leaders, because sometimes you think, why didn't they ask me? Or I wish you would have told me, but the onus is on the leader. Yes. Correct?
Exactly right. It's on us. That is our job. I think communication, doesn't matter what your role is. Communication is one of your top responsibilities if you're in any leadership role. And if you don't see it that way, you probably are lacking some clarity.
Oh, girl, that's good. I'm like, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I know right now for leaders, especially, there's so many things that we are thinking about. And thank you for highlighting that we need to be focused on communication. We're thinking about revenue, bottom lines, decisions, and we don't know all those answers. But what would you say are some key principles, or maybe the one thing, and you may have just told us the answer, what is the one thing maybe that we do need to really invest our attention and our time to, like during this crisis?
Yeah, I actually have another article that's just getting ready to come out that addresses that. So I'm glad you asked that And
Awesome.
here's the preview. I think we have to be incredibly focused. And I'm suggesting the next 90 days that in business, we have to be very focused. There always are things that are distracting to us. There are things that we waste time on. We know that. And I don't think we have the luxury for that right now. And I also don't think our organizations have the luxury. And so what we did is we created 3 goals. So we have this beautiful 2020 strategic plan. It means pretty much nothing at this point, right?
Right.
I'm not burning it. I'm actually setting it aside. I do think we're going to get to come back to it. But what we've done right now, and this also goes into this communication and intentionality principle, is we rolled into May, and we were just getting ready to have everybody on our leadership team come back and report on their quarter 1 goals. That was what was planned.
Yeah.
Well, that's ridiculous, right?
Right.
I don't want everybody to have to stand up and say why they didn't make their goals. We know.
Right.
And what we did is we said, instead of reporting on quarter 1 goals, here's what we're going to do. We're recalibrating for the next 90 days. And for us, there's 3 things that we're doing real quick. It's a focus on our customers. So if we've got extra capacity, if we've got time we can put into something, even if we don't, how do we take care of our customers in an exceptional way right now? And the second one is that every dollar counts. And so we know that, but we forget that sometimes. So now more than ever, every dollar in. So are there even things that we could do to bring more revenue in? But then every dollar out counts. We're watching that very closely the next 90 days. And then the last one is just an intentional use of our resources. So we've gone back through, we do have some teams that don't have as much work to do right now. And so we've been very intentional versus them trying to figure out what am I supposed to do with my days and my time. We've got some awesome internal projects that when we get to the other side of this are really going to benefit us. And we've rerouted those teams to work on those things. But I think the number one thing is make sure your team knows what's most important. It may be different than March 1st, but we have to communicate that to them. And then I love that teams are inspired to do what it takes for their organizations right now. I see that in my team. I see that at Sharita and you and your team. I see that with all of our clients is teams are just saying, put me in, coach. What do I do? How do I help us get through this? And so as leaders, we've got to tell them what that means and then turn them loose.
Oh man, that's good. And I love how you outline kind of repurposing and reprioritizing and how it's okay to do that. Sometimes it feels like that's a failure for some reason, when you have to reprioritize, but it's not, right? And I love that you said 90 days.
Yes.
Short term.
I hope at the end of this 90 days, our goal is, I just don't think we know what the world will look like in 90 days. We never said that before, but I think we don't. So for us, we're saying, this is what's important for 90 days. And then we're going to look at it again. And then we're going to recalibrate and we're going to reset. It'd be amazing if we just pull out that 2020 plan and we start executing again.
Girl, that would be awesome. Me too.
But I don't know what's going to happen. But you know what? We're going to make intentional decisions along the way so that we're doing the best right thing for now.
Oh, I love that. The best. Oh, y'all write that down. The best right thing for now. That's beautiful. That really is beautiful. Wow. I think the last thing that I kind of want to unpack with you is, and you talked about this a lot, but just how do you, and like, what is your philosophy when it's time to lead your team through challenges? Because obviously you're so experienced, you have all this knowledge. Kind of share with us like your philosophy and how you lead, because it can be scary, quite frankly, sometimes when you don't know the answer. So
absolutely. The 2 things we talked about is communicate. And also I think just the vulnerability. I mean, there have been days where I have said, we have to be careful as leaders. There's an amount of this we can do. I can't stand up in front of my team and say, you guys, I'm scared to death. Nobody wants to hear that from me. But I can say, you know what? I'm going to be really honest. I've never led through something like this, but I'm so glad I've got the leaders I have around me because we're going to figure this out. But I think the other thing I would just add to that is it's very important as a leader to have this intuition of how the team is doing. One of the hardest things for me is that I don't get to look in people's eyes every day and do that. So we've got to figure out how we do that. If we're remote, some people I think will stay remote. And how do we do that? How are we getting on Zoom and asking those questions that might just happen in a hallway in an office? But beyond that, there have been weeks where I have just sensed this team is really down. Like this This is super tough. And there was a day, Sharita, and we have almost 40 team members. We don't have hundreds like you guys, but there was a day where we drove around Nashville and we dropped off Corona care kits on the front doorsteps of all of our team members and rang the doorbell and left and had little Corona cookies and all kinds. But it was a response to this team needs a boost. And I'll tell you what, you've never seen people so grateful for cookies and hand sanitizing wipes before in your life.
Yeah.
But it was because we truly felt like we need to do something right now just to show up for our team. And so I think just understanding that dynamic of how's the team doing, how's the team feeling, and then being very quick to respond to that when we need to. I think that's really important.
Oh, that's so good. And you're right. It is the little things sometimes that really impact you, just someone showing they care. And it's easy to forget that. Sometimes, we think it has to be a huge, grand, sweeping, planned out, well thought out, gesture. And sometimes just something like cookies,
Exactly. Everybody loves cookies.
It's true. Well, so I just want to say, I guess, thank you so much. And before we wrap, I just would ask you if people want to connect with you, if they want to work with Team 5x5. And I can testify that you guys are amazing. I love you all so much. And like I said at the top, it's a blessing when you can work with someone and they help you accomplish your goals, but you also like them too. Where do people find you? How do they connect with you? If they're curious, how can they find out more information?
Well, first of all, we love you and we love Christian Care Ministries. And I would be remiss if I didn't say very publicly right now that health sharing allowed us to start this business, because we were coming from the partners and we had these big health plans and trying to figure out, could we do this? And health share, it was one of those hurdles of what do we do for health? And it was one of those hurdles that health sharing. And so many of our teams have been Medi-Share members for years and years. And we love Medi-Share and Christian Care Ministries.
We love you guys too. Yeah, we do.
Probably the best way is at 5x5agency.com, and it's the number 5, BY, the number 5, agency.com. And we actually have a series of some things about coronavirus and crisis communications. And then we always have information on what's happening in digital marketing and branding and technology. But that's probably the best place to go to get more information.
Awesome. And then I thought of one more thing I need to ask you, because we were talking about this yesterday when we were just prepping and talking about how much we love you and your team. And we're so excited about the interview. Why did you name it 5x5? I know the answer and I tried to explain it, but I sounded like a stone fool. And I was like, it's cooler than what I'm saying. I'm not getting it right. So just for anybody who's curious,
let me see if I can do the cool way. So 5x5 is an old communications term, and it's how they would measure a signal. So they use it in radio. Pilots used it, and they would basically rank a signal. So if I asked you what's the signal, you would tell me it's 4x3 or it's 5x5 is the best. And the two things they measured were how clear that signal was and how strong that signal was. And so a perfect signal is both clear, which is where clarity comes from us, and then it was also strong. And we have a whole model. We call it clarity times reach. I won't go into more. It's actually on our website, but that's the secret sauce we believe for effective marketing and communications.
Yes, thank you. Because I was like, I'm not doing it justice, but that is beautiful. And I love
it a few times, Sharita, in my years.
Yes, I think one of my favorite things, there's so many that I love about you, Shannon, but just you have such clear intentionality about things that you do. And that's why I wanted you to share that before you go, because even down to the name, there's history, there's meaning, there's richness, there's depth. And I think that sums up the way you do everything that I've, been able to experience from you. So thank you so much. Yeah, we love you. We love your team. I've given them all nicknames. Nicknames for me are love. And so I've nicknamed so many of them.
You'll tell me those later because I need those.
Yeah, they're really good. They're really good. But thank you for sharing your wisdom and expertise and sharing hope with people today. We're so grateful. So thank you for joining us.